And hello again. It's us,
It's
the Horror Guys.
The Horror Guys. I'm Horror Guy Kevin.
And I'm Horror Guy Brian.
And we're going to talk about some horror movies, aren't we?
4 movies and a short, like always.
From some awfully new stuff this week.
Yeah. I tell you what,
Heavily new.
mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
What do we got?
We got Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan. Am I saying that right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've heard Shyamalan, Shyamalan, and every which kind of make fun of it and sound name you want to do, but
And another new
we
one.
know.
Another new one called Shivers.
That's not a new one.
That's not the new one.
That was 1974.
Oh, my bad. But Cub. Cub is a new one.
2014. It's newish.
And Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Okay,
That's new.
there's one of them's new.
That's new. No, these are all new to me.
I think you saw Friday the 13th back in the day.
I did see the final chapter. And that's so deceptive, too. But
Knowing you and your
get on.
folks, you probably saw Shivers when it came out in the theaters in 1974 when you were like
Actually,
6 or 8.
I think I did, yeah. I vaguely remembered that from a wee lad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about here today, and a short film also. Over at horrorbulletin.com, our free weekly newsletter, we're going to talk about all of those in print, along with...
Hey, did you know that Peter Cushing made some movies? A lot of movies.
Well, yeah, he
Wouldn't
did.
it be cool if somebody compiled all his works into a book, all his horror movies? And
They could call it
talked about 'em?
something like...
What
maybe they could call it like the Horror Guy's Guide to the Horror Films of Peter Cushing.
That would be awesome.
And they could sell it at horrorguyshop.com or Amazon or Lulu or
Wherever
Kobo, Barnes &
fine
Noble,
books are
Apple, or
sold.
wherever you buy your books. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of our thickest books yet. I think the only one that's thicker is the Hammer book because there were so many Hammer movies.
Yeah, huh?
Cushing did a lot of movies
Cushing
too.
did a lot of movies.
And of course, as we've been telling you every week for like the last month, you can pick up your free copy of the Horror Guy's Guide to the Horror... What is it? The Horror Guy's Guide to the Halloween Films.
All of them.
And that is
All of them so far.
totally free ebook, all 13 movies, the timeline, commentary, synopses, and everything you wanted to know about Halloween. And it's free.
Free.
HorrorGuyShop.com. But as I was originally saying, over at HorrorBulletin.com, we've got 2 more bonus movies for this week.
What do we have?
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Oh, the classic.
The original Night of the Living Dead from 1968.
Where they do not call them zombies at any point in the movie.
Nope, they're just dead.
Yeah.
They're just dead.
The living dead, the undead.
And also The Velvet Vampire, a 1971 vampire movie that's kind of weird.
That was weird and interesting. It emphasizes more the seductive and sexy and hypnotic powers of
It's
this,
not quite a
of this
porn
vampire.
movie, but it wanted to be.
It's awfully softcore.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot more sexiness than violence. There's violence. There's certainly the horror element. She is a vampire, but
Yeah.
that was interesting.
So go over to horrorbulletin.com, sign up for our free newsletter. Once a week, you'll get our newsletter full of reviews and nothing else. There's no spam. There's no junk.
That's right.
Yeah, go to horrorguys.com/books, pick up your free Halloween film book. You can order your Peter Cushing book or any one of dozens of the Horror Guys guides and Horror Bulletin magazines.
You betcha.
All right, that's enough advertising today. Did we see any movies?
We saw Knock at the Cabin, a brand new one.
Knock, knock.
Yeah, you hear that at the door?
Who's there? M. Night Shyamalan.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Written and directed by him, also written by Paul Tremblay and Steve Desmond. Stars David Bautista and Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge. Runtime is 1 hour and 40 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
This is, well, M. Night Shyamalan. Everybody knows who he is. He's had Old, which we reviewed here. I think it was his most recent movie. And
The I See Dead People movie and the Aliens movie.
I keep wanting to say Dead Zone. That's not the one. It's
No.
The Sixth Sense. There we go.
The
Yes.
Sixth Sense. Yeah.
And The Happening and The Village.
The
and-
Village. Yeah, I liked The Village. I think of all.
Did he do
the stuff-
Signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the alien one.
Yeah.
I think of all the movies of his that, I have seen them all. I think The Village is my favorite.
The Lady in the Water.
Mm-hmm. Lady in the Swimming Pool.
I never saw that one.
I refer to it as Lady in the Swimming Pool. I thought it was a little bit lame.
Well, the problem with him is every one of his movies, because of The Sixth Sense and that twist that nobody saw coming at the time,
And everybody expects a twist.
everybody expects a twist out of his movies now.
Uh-huh.
And, well, we'll get to it on this one. We're not going to spoil it too badly.
No.
I hadn't heard much about this one, advertising-wise. Had you?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere for us. Spoiler-free, what happens?
Well, it's pretty easy to guess what's going on, but that doesn't lessen it. It's an interesting story and situation. The acting is great, and the character reactions are believable. And all in all, we really enjoyed it.
And I have read some reviews of people who really trashed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just M. Night haters for the most part. He's got his own hate squad out there.
And he does have a style, but yeah, I thought it was pretty darn good.
I did too. Yeah. Okay, here's the only spoiler we're going to give. There's no twist. It's a straightforward story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, little girl, Wen, catches some bugs in a jar. She names them and writes stuff about them in her little book. She sees a great big man walking toward her through the woods, and he politely introduces himself as Leonard. He offers to help her catch grasshoppers. She mentions that she has two dads, Eric and Andrew. Something is off, and Leonard keeps looking in the direction that he came from. He says his heart is breaking over what he must do today. Others are coming. The four of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world, Leonard tells Wen, that she and her dads will soon have to make some tough choices. Wen goes inside and warns Eric and Andrew, but they don't take her seriously about the strange man outside.
Until there's a knock at the cabin.
There's a knock at the cabin, so it's not mislabeled.
No.
Leonard asks them to open the door. Wen is clearly upset, so they don't let the strange man in. He, along with Sabrina, Adriana, and Redmond, would like to come in and talk. Eric tries to call the police, but there's no dial tone. We need to talk. We don't have a choice. Eric and Andrew then barricade the doors and lock the windows, but from the look of the place, it's not going to slow people down for long.
It's not
long.
It's not a fortress.
They
There's
got
a
big
lot of
windows,
big
yes.
old glass windows. Yeah.
Eric gets knocked unconscious as the group makes their way inside. It soon becomes obvious that the four intruders have control of the situation, but they also seem a little bit reluctant about the violence. Then we flash back to Eric and Andrew having dinner with Andrew's parents. They are not supportive of the same-sex couple. Eric and Andrew are now tied up, and Sabrina patches up Eric's head wound. Leonard tries to explain, but the whole home invasion thing makes him a little hard to believe. He says they had no choice, and the attack has nothing to do with them being a same-sex couple. And Sabrina then explains that she's a nurse who lives in California. She spent most of her life savings on this trip to talk to them. Leonard is a second-grade teacher from Chicago. Redmond works for a gas company in Massachusetts, and Adrian is a cook at a Mexican restaurant, and she has 2 cats. Leonard explains that the 4 of us are here to prevent the apocalypse. We can stop it with your help. Whether the world ends or not is entirely up to you 3. Your family must decide to sacrifice one of the 3 of you to avert the apocalypse. If you fail to choose or follow through with the sacrifice, the world will end. You haven't done anything wrong. You're just the family chosen to decide for us at this time. And basically the rest of the movie is them deciding whether this story is made up or not.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little hard to swallow.
The 4 of them are saying they had overwhelming visions of, what was going to happen that drew them together. They hadn't seen each other until
And they all met on a message board.
They met on they saw each other on a boardwalk for the first time, and here they are.
They have all the signs of a crazy cult.
And yet this is what they say they were told to do,
By the voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard to persuade this couple, that they're for real, but things happen that do persuade them.
Are they persuaded?
But are
we'll
they persuaded?
See. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, they try to persuade them.
The scariest thing about this movie?
What's that?
The idea that Dave Bautista is a second-grade teacher.
He is.
Could
so
you imagine being like
gigantic.
6 years old and him walking into the room?
Yeah.
Well,
we can't.
I don't know how much of this we can talk about.
Can't do commentaries.
There's not a twist, but there's definitely spoilers.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie with great characters. Leonard is calm and sensible throughout, even though his story is insane. The acting here is good throughout, and everyone acts believably considering what's going on. And I have read reviews where people say the couple would not have acted like this. I think it seems realistic enough.
I think so, too.
And the best part is, it's an M. Night Shyamalan film that doesn't have a twist ending. I thought it was very good.
We give it a thumbs up.
Yes. Well, yeah, of course, it's the most. It's got the recency bias right now, but I might say it's his best thing. I haven't seen I See Dead People for a very long time. Mm-hmm. You like The Village?
I liked The Village. Yeah.
That's the one with the monsters in the woods, right?
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Yeah. The isolated village.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Well, because it's called The Village.
Yeah, there's a village for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's a question for you. What is your favorite Shyamalan film? And which one did you hate the most? Because his films are very polarizing. He's got some good ones, and he does have some stinkers.
Yeah, what did you all think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send us an email. Send us a Twitter at Horror Movie Guys on Twitter, and let us know what you think. What movie of his do you like best or worst?
I think my least favorite was Lady in the Swimming Pool.
I never saw that one, so I can't comment.
Okay, we should watch it. We should.
Well, if you hate it that badly,
but we should see it officially, and that way I can ream it, and you can say whether you like it or not. Maybe I'll like it better the second time.
I would need a list of his films. Mm-hmm. I know he's done one or two that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
The Happening didn't impress me much.
The Happening was okay.
And The Village didn't impress me much.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. And we haven't seen that series, The Servant. Is
that's something to do with him too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we watching on TV lately? Not related to horror necessarily.
Lower Decks.
Star Trek Lower Decks.
Star Trek animated series. Those are so fun.
We're getting caught up on those from last season.
If anybody out there listening is a Star Trek fan, and you want something funny that is still loyal to Star Trek, I think they do a really nice job with those. And they're short. They're like half-hour episodes. And
Picard is shaping up nicely this year too.
Yeah. We've been following that along.
I wasn't totally impressed with the first 2 years, but year 3 is so far quite good.
So far entertaining, yeah.
We need to do a Star Trek podcast someday.
Yeah.
Every episode
of Star Trek, all the shows.
I've seen every episode of all the Star Treks. Have you?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not all of the Lower Decks yet. Didn't we miss some Discovery too? Aren't we short of
No, we're current on Discovery.
We did catch
New
up on
season
that.
starting probably as soon as Picard's over, I think.
Yeah, we've seen it all then.
Yeah.
Except for Lower Decks.
Let's see. I have seen all of Star Trek, all of Doctor Who, including the old series.
So have I now, because you caught me up on
all
that.
of Stargate.
All of Battlestar Galactica.
All of Well, that one is super long, but Stargate, Doctor Who, and Star Trek are insanely long.
We saw them all, though.
We really need to do a sci-fi podcast.
We're dedicated to television watching.
We could watch them all again.
Yes.
Something else to email us about if that would be interesting to you.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're here to talk about horror movies.
David Cronenberg.
Nobody says horror like David Cronenberg.
Yeah. He did a body horror, creepy kind of thing in 1975 called Shivers.
If Shyamalan is known for his twist ending, Cronenberg is known for body horror.
Uh-huh.
And he doesn't even call his stuff body horror.
No. And it was an interesting interview I saw recently where he doesn't really consider it. It's more body beauty. It's how the body is, and
all right.
Yeah.
As long as you're seeing the insides out, I guess okay. Shivers, 1975, written and directed by David Cronenberg, stars Paul Hampton, Joe Silver, and Lynn Lowry. Hour and 27 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. It's strange and combines the erotic with horror. Some of the effects are pretty dated looking, but overall it was entertaining and still worth a watch. No CGI in 75.
No, it was all practical effects.
Yeah, well, okay, well, what happens?
We begin with a commercial for Starliner Apartments, a brand new high-rise development near Montreal. And this is ultra high-tech, modern. They've got a golf course and a pool, and every apartment has cable TV even.
That's a big deal in 75.
Yeah, and it's in this isolated little island paradise. Well, out in the middle of nowhere.
Isolation.
Like a community of its own. Well,
if you're making a horror story, isolation is one of your main ingredients.
Uh-huh. That's got it. Well, a young couple, the
They're like Sweden or something.
The Zvibens.
They're named after IKEA furniture.
Yes. They come to see an apartment. And meanwhile, an older man beats up a young girl upstairs. It's kind of a juxtaposition there that they got going. The old man chokes the girl and then takes her clothes off. He cuts her open with a knife and pours in some acid. Then he cuts in his own throat and dies.
It was starting to look like a little abusive rape game there, and then it was a little further than that.
Weirder and more violent than that, yeah, but it wasn't sexual, yeah. Elsewhere, Nick Tudor has weird pains in his belly. Nick tells his wife that he's going to work, but instead goes to the top floor of the building, where he opens the door to Annabelle's place, where the dead bodies of the girl and the old man are inside. And he just kind of looks around, and then he goes to work.
I'm not telling.
Yeah, kind of weird. And Dr. Roger St. Luke, the building's doctor.
This building is so fancy and current and modern. They have their own doctor.
Own clinic and their own doctor. Yeah, and it's gigantic. Yeah, it's really quite a complex. He's called to the penthouse by the police to look at the bodies. They finally found them. Roger says he's the one who found the bodies. The dead man, Dr. Hobbs, was one of Roger's instructors at medical school, and he called Roger that morning to go to lunch. He seemed fine and normal, so we don't know what happened. Well, Roger goes to see Dr. Hobbs' partner, Rollo Linsky, who says they're working on a new kind of organ transplant using a useful parasite that can take over a human organ's function.
So what if you got a bad organ? You can take it out and replace it with this new parasite that will grow and change and do the same function of your old one.
Mm-hmm. What could go wrong? Well, Rollo asks Roger to join him on the project. Meanwhile, Nick's secretary finds him in his office drooling blood.
That's never good.
Yeah, there's something clearly wrong with him, but he insists he's fine. He'll just go home. Well, Nick's wife, Janine, worries about Nick's pains, and her friend Betts advises her to go see the building doctor, Roger St. Luke, downstairs. And Nick comes home from work early, has a seizure on the floor, pukes in the bathtub.
Why would you puke in the bathtub when there's a toilet right there for easy flushing?
Yeah.
Because you want to make a mess for the camera, I guess.
He next goes outside to the balcony and pukes some blood on some old people walking below. But luckily she had an umbrella. and they're looking up. There's a couple of old ladies like, oh, that poor bird must have hit the window. Oh, dear. Splat, Well, a woman enters the basement laundry room. There's blood coming out of one of the ventilation shafts. When she opens the washing machine, something jumps out and gets her. Looks like a tongue or something.
It's a big red blob of something.
Yes, they look kind of naughty, these parasitic worm things. That wasn't blood. It was some kind of slime trail. Well, an old man comes to Roger as a patient, and he has some strange belly pains too. And he has a connection to the young woman who was murdered earlier. Janine comes home from Bet's place, finds Nick passed out by the refrigerator. And there's one of those bloody trails there, too. But he's fine, refuses to go to the doctor, and she cries. And then when Nick is alone, he's like, come on, boy, come on, fella. And his stomach is pulsing, and the lump in his belly starts to move around, and he talks to it. Attaboy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a scene. And that was really well done. It looks,
It looks good, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a good effect, yeah. Well, Rollo calls Roger. He was reading Hobbs' notes. And Hobbs came up with the parasite all right, but it's a combination of aphrodisiac and venereal disease to turn the world into one big orgy.
What?
The man had a dream. Annabelle, the dead girl, was used as a guinea pig, and she went berserk. He put the acid in her to burn up the special organ. Roger says that Hobbs was too late. Annabelle was really popular with some of the men in the building, so it has spread.
Every man in the building knows about Annabelle.
Mm-hmm. Nick's got a belly full of them. Yeah. Betts decides to take a bath, and the little penis-shaped parasite comes up out of the drain and crawls inside her with much screaming. Elsewhere, an old woman knocks down and drags a caterer into her apartment, saying, I'm hungry for love.
Wow.
So people are starting to go horny berserk with these infections. Roger talks to Nurse Forsythe, his girlfriend/assistant. She goes home and starts cooking dinner.
She's a fairly major character, and she's never referred to as anything other than Nurse Forsythe.
Nurse Forsythe.
I assume she has a first name. We are never told.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a knock at the door, and a man barges in and tries to rape her, except she stabs him with a cooking fork. She catches Roger in the hallway, and he enters the apartment looking for the man. He finds the bloody fork and takes a blood sample, because he's a doctor guy. Science. Things start really getting out of control throughout the building as the parasites infect more and more people. Infected, horny people start roaming the hallways. It's quite a movie, really. Nick wants to make love with Janine, but she's freaked out by his lumpy belly. One of the parasites crawls out of his mouth. She runs downstairs to Bet's place, and Betts wants to make love to her, which goes badly.
And this is probably a good time to point out that this was 2 or 3 years before Alien.
Mm-hmm.
So the lumpy things moving around in your belly and coming out came here first.
Yeah, they did.
This just wasn't quite as juicy as Alien.
Yep. Well, someone cuts the phone lines for the entire building. Roger tells the apartment manager to call the police, but can't call the police, but he's already under the control of the parasites anyway. And sex-crazed zombie people are now swarming the halls and breaking into everybody's apartments.
Just picture Walking Dead with more rape.
Yeah. Instead of brains, they want sex. Roger and his girlfriend try to leave the apartment, but are attacked by a man who destroys their car. And they're just wrecking the cars, too, and, so nobody can get away. He thinks the police are on the way, so they find a place to hide and wait. Doesn't take long before he notices that she's been infected. He knocks her out, ties a bandana over her mouth to keep the worm inside. Meanwhile, Rollo, the other scientist guy, comes to the building with some documents and looks for Rogers. He's surprised to find Roger's office all torn up and ransacked. There's nobody around but Nick, who looks dead. However, Nick's parasites are doing fine. They attack Rollo, who pulls them off his face with a pipe wrench. He fights back. Roger, he's about the only survivor at this point, uninfected, him and Rollo. Roger runs from one group of infected people to another, encountering murder and mayhem all the way. He eventually arrives in the big room with the pool, finds Betts and Janine in there. He goes outside finally, finds dozens of people who are already infected. It's not just inside the building.
The whole neighborhood.
Well,
they've all gotten outside wandering around. It's a crowd.
Yeah, it's the people from inside the building all just wandering around. Roger runs back inside and is pulled into the pool as 100 or so sex zombies break in. And he is eventually infected as dozens of people swarm around him. And later, we see a whole caravan of cars driving out of the garage as all the residents disperse to infect people in the city.
Needs a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, that was something.
It's quite a ride.
Well,
yeah.
Dr. Hobbs thought that a combination of aphrodisiac and venereal disease to turn the whole world into one big orgy was a great idea. Maybe not so much. And this was David Cronenberg's first feature film, and it turned out to be the most profitable Canadian film ever made at the time. It was also so controversial that Canada's Parliament debated its social and artistic value and effect upon society. Did the government really want to finance this trash? Well, it set off a whole debate over censorship issues. And I don't know how that ever turned out, but Cronenberg did make many more movies.
Turned out just fine. It still exists.
It's a bizarre film, very dated in the special effects, but it's still a lot of fun.
And even the dated special effects are they're okay.
They're funny.
Some of them, yeah.
Did we do a short film?
Yeah, one called Stuck.
All right.
Brand new this year.
Now, this is not to be confused with Stuck, the short film that we reviewed last year.
This is a different
That one
Stuck.
is about a pervert hiding in the gymnasium pads. Yeah. This one isn't that one. This is a new one by Arturo David Ronconi. Stars Ianua Coeli Linhart and Emmanuel De Simone. 8 minutes, 37 seconds, and I'm sure I have mangled those names.
We apologize.
What happens?
Sophia is moving into her cool new place. Adele texts her and asks her to be picked up. but the bus should be there any minute. Sophia responds that she's stuck in the house for now, and they both have some doubts about the creepy old house, but it's the best they can afford. As she waits, Sophia finds a very large locked trunk. And the only thing is, it's got a great big chain sealing it shut. So naturally, she looks for a way to open it.
Did you ever watch Dark Shadows?
Don't
That's how you get Dark Shadows.
Don't open locked trunks that you find in the attic. That's a general rule.
Sophia makes every horror movie mistake possible. Has she never seen a horror film before? Anyway, this one has excellent lighting and music. The creature effects, surprisingly enough, there's a creature, are way beyond most short films and would look right at home in a feature film.
Yeah, the creature was amazing.
This looked like a scene out of something you'd see on Shudder or somewhere. It looked really good.
It was excellent.
All right, what's next?
Cub from 2014, which was also known as Whelp. And this is an international film, so I'm going to slaughter some names.
Oh, there's no way to get around that with these.
Directed by Jonas Govertz. Written by Roel Mondeliers and Jonas Govertz again. Sorry. Stars Maurice Lejeune, Eveline Boesmans, Titus Van Voogd.
That's probably better than I did with that short.
Runtime is 1 hour and 24 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
I had never heard about this one until just recently. This was not something they advertised. Well, we weren't doing the podcast when this came out. So this is just a weird little werewolf movie.
And it was so surprisingly good.
You liked it.
Wasn't what I expected, and liked it.
It's not what they promised in the description either. Spoiler free, what it's about.
Well, without knowing anything about it ahead of time, like I said, this one is unexpected. It's strange and interesting and very entertaining. And don't be put off by having to read subtitles. It's worth it.
It is subtitled, yes.
Mm-hmm. Just some fun camping in the woods.
All right.
Good times.
This is like 9 years old, so it's not new, but I bet most people haven't seen it, so let's not go through it all the way. We won't spoil it. A girl runs through the forest. Since, of course, this is a horror movie, she falls down a lot. Then a werewolf approaches and growls at her. She runs for the bright lights that look like cards on the roadway, but wait, that's no road. Credits roll.
Yeah, so you wonder what's going on with that.
What's the name of this movie again?
Cub.
Well, the Cub Scout meeting is about to start, and the two leaders start a countdown. Sam is late again, so he has to do 50 push-ups. He makes it to 12 before they make him stop. Chris, the leader, says he's not sure if they'll be able to go camping as planned since a boy is turning into a werewolf in that area. Some campers are reported missing up there. They can only go camping at their own risk. Should they go? And the kids all yell, "Yes!"
Yeah.
Well, they all hop in the truck and head to the campsite. They almost run over a girl in the road. Turns out it's really just Jasmine, the camp cook. They arrive at the campsite to find skinheads on a buggy there. Soon there's a fist fight between the scout leaders, Chris and Peter, and the two goons, Mark and Vincent. The scout truck moves on to find another place, and the goons yell after them not to go that way. Something's not right up there.
These are a couple French guys. They're close to the border of France, and they've crossed over and are raising heck in this field.
The French invaders.
French hoodlums. Yeah.
Well, they drive across a river, and then they drive over some kind of an alarm that goes off in a bunker. What?
Yeah, and that made me say, what?
What? What? Well, they find a spot that looks promising and decide to stay right where they are. And immediately, as soon as we see this bunker, I'm thinking, oh, Cabin in the Woods.
Or Lost.
It
made me think of the bunker and Lost.
And those are both wrong.
Yep.
Well, the policeman on the tiny little moped, this guy is a hoot. He's like 300 pounds on this little tiny thing.
And apparently he's the cop.
The cop, yes.
For this entire region.
He tells Mark and Vincent to behave, and then he drives over another booby trap sensor as well that dumps a load of logs behind him blocking the road. The policeman warns Chris that when the old factory went broke, a lot of the unemployed workers hung themselves from these trees. But you're welcome to camp here if you want to.
Trying to creep
haunted
them
woods.
Out. Trying to creep them out, yeah.
Also, some of the locals are still salty about that plant shutting down, so avoid them too. Well, Sam gets to dig the latrine, and he sees Kai, the wolf boy, in the woods. Peter says, "I told you we should have left Sam at home." The policeman then finds the logs in the road and takes a detour down a different path. He finds several abandoned cars parked down the path, but he doesn't see what's standing behind him. It gets dark, and all the campers go to their tents. The adults talk about Sam after the kids are in bed. Peter calls him a nut job, and Jasmine doesn't understand why. But at some point of the night, Kai comes into the big tent and looks at all the kids. Then he steals some stuff. Mm-hmm. And we'll stop there.
We should stop there because things happen after that.
Yeah, a lot of things happen in this movie.
Yeah, it's packed.
All right, so anyway, Sam finds Kai's hideout early on in the movie, and he could have told the adults this at any time to stay out of trouble, but he didn't.
No, he wanted it to be his secret.
What started out about a feral kid in the woods sure went off the rails quickly. It's got a surprisingly high body count for a movie about Cub Scout kids.
Yes.
And the ending is a little vague, but it is unpredictable, interesting, and really cool.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, I did too. I like that one too. It was not what we were expecting, which is we like to be surprised.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Then, something that won't surprise anybody, it's Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Made in 1984. This was the last Friday the 13th movie. It's the final chapter.
Fourth in the series. It says final chapter right there. You know they didn't make any more after that.
You know they were done after this.
Till the next year.
Directed by Joseph Zito and written by Victor Miller, Ron Kurz, and Martin Kittroser. Stars Eric Anderson, Julie Aronson, and Pete Barton. And the runtime is 1 hour and 31 minutes. There's a trailer in the show notes. Shall I tell spoiler free?
Spoiler free.
Well, spoiler, this really isn't the final chapter.
Well, maybe they thought it was. Maybe they thought it was gonna be.
I think maybe they thought. Yeah, I think maybe honestly they did. But the budget was bigger and the popularity was growing. This is another continuation right after the events of the first 3 films, and Jason does more of his thing on a number of hapless victims. And there are lots of stunts and action and all-around entertainment.
Yeah, and just to point out again, this is really part 4. It doesn't have a number, but it's the 4th one.
It's the 4th one, yeah. And so far they've been a continuous... You could watch them one after the other.
You should watch these in sequence, starting with the first one.
You should, yeah, these 4. But they happen literally sequentially.
Yep.
There's no time.
Well, we get a clip of the counselors in the previous film telling the story of Mrs. Voorhees, Jason, Alice, and everything else we've seen so far in the first 3 films. Credits roll, this time showing us the hockey mask. Remember, he didn't get that hockey mask till the very end of the previous film.
And now it's his.
Ambulances cart away the bodies of the previous film as we start where part 3 ended. The police find Jason's body, still in the hockey mask, and they put a sheet over his corpse. The paramedics don't like dealing with Jason, but he's dead, so whatever.
Yeah, it's over.
They load him in the back of an ambulance and drive off. They hand him over to Axel, the morgue attendant at the hospital. The attendant and the nurse start to get it on in the body storage room, but even dead, Jason can break that up.
And could there be a less romantic spot to get romantic?
Oh, he's in the morgue eating his sandwiches and dancing around.
Yeah.
They're trying to break expectations. He's a weirdo.
Yeah, well, the nurse is into it too, and yeah, they're there amongst the dead bodies. Yeah, let's get it on.
Some people are into that whole dead body thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
yeah.
They probably shouldn't be working in the morgue.
But anyway, he rolls Jason into the cold storage drawer, so they're done.
Yeah. Oh, wait, surprise. Jason's not dead.
No.
But Axel and the nurse soon are.
He's not dead?
He's not dead.
Oh.
Tommy and his sister Trish talk about the new neighbors. 6 young people are moving in.
Victims.
We cut to a car with 6 1980s teen stereotypes. And why are these teenagers, 6 of them, buying a house in the suburbs?
It's a rental. It's a getaway. They're having a getaway.
Hey, you and your 5 college friends want to go out and get drunk and we'll rent a suburban house for a weekend?
Sure. Well, it's a cabin.
We'll annoy somebody else's neighbors for once.
It's a cabiny, woodsy place.
It's not that much.
It's decorated like a...
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they get lost and park right in front of the grave of Pamela Voorhees. Oh, could that be foreshadowing?
Could be.
A nearby hitchhiker is murdered moments later. Samantha and Sarah talk about how many boys they've had sex with. Tommy watches Samantha get undressed from his bedroom window. The young people run into a set of twins, Tina and Terry, and they're all going to Crystal Lake for the afternoon. Sarah decides to head home on her own, but backs into a jump scare instead. Everyone goes skinny dipping as little Tommy arrives to see many naked butts.
And this little Tommy is Corey Feldman.
That kid had a hard life. Okay, yeah, he's like 12 here or something.
Yeah, preteen. Yeah.
Tricia grabs him to go home, but their car breaks down on the road. Rob, a hiker, comes out of the woods and helps with Tricia's car. They take him home so Tommy can show him all the Halloween masks that Tommy makes. Some of this stuff is straight out of the props department of a horror film. I'm kind of surprised that didn't really come in that useful later.
No, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Over at the party house, everyone dances. Next door, Tricia says goodbye to Rob, who is getting back on the road. Ted and Jimmy bicker about girls and why neither of them is getting any action. One girl goes out and lays on an inflatable boat until Jason runs her through. All the way through. Her boyfriend Paul swims out to the little boat, finds the body, and then gets speared in the groin.
Ow.
That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. There were some painful deaths in this one. Painful looking.
Rob,
that was one of them.
Rob, camping nearby, hears Paul's screams and goes out with his machete looking for trouble. When he returns, his shotgun, map, and stuff have been vandalized. In the house, Tina wants to leave, but Terry is in the middle of sex with Jimmy. Tina goes out in the rain to go home, while Ted and the gang watch some ancient 8mm porn. That didn't look entertaining in the least.
Not really.
Terry gets stabbed in the barn. Sarah and Doug have an awkward, "I'm a good girl, so no sex for you" talk. So, you've seen the Scream movies. You know the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Tommy's mom returns home, but the power is off. Tricia and Tommy come home too and find that their mother is not at home. Tricia goes off looking and finds Rob's deserted, wrecked tent, and she runs into him and gets scared by his big machete. Jimmy goes downstairs for wine and finds a corkscrew the hard way.
Ow.
Terry soon goes for a flying leap. Rob tells Tricia about Jason, the killer who's killed his sister in one of the previous films. He knows that Jason's body disappeared from the morgue, and that's what he's really here to hunt. And this all happened this evening.
Yeah, it did.
So where did he come from living this close, prepared to hunt an escaped killer that escaped from the morgue? He was ready.
He was ready at the speed of plot.
Yeah, he was. Like waiting in the hospital parking lot or something.
Yeah.
Well, then Ted gets knifed. Sarah changes her mind about the no-sex rule and gets it on with Doug in the shower. Doug gets a crush, but Sarah gets the axe.
The bodies are piling up.
Rob and Trish stop by to look for her missing mother, and they just walk right in. The door is unlocked. She finds Doug's corpse and flips out, calling for Rob, who finds Jason more quickly than he intended. As Trish runs away, she finds all the other bodies. She runs home and tells Tommy to lock the doors and windows. Jason throws Rob's body through the window and grabs Tommy. Tricia smacks him good with the machete, and the sister and brother run upstairs and barricade themselves into his bedroom. Jason gets an axe and cuts his way inside. She hits him over the head with the TV, which knocks him out for a bit. He gets a little shock there. They have to tiptoe past Jason to get out, and that goes about how you'd expect.
Yeah, this is another one of those, don't make sure he's dead.
No. He's got to be dead now. He won't get up again.
He's not dead.
Well, the chase is back on. Trish runs back into the murder house next door and falls out the upstairs window. Tommy reads Rob's newspaper accounts of Jason and sees a picture of him. He then goes into the bathroom and starts shaving his head. Jason catches Trish and starts to kill her until Tommy comes down and calls his name. He's bald and looks like young Jason did, which confuses and distracts him. Trish hacks his mask off with a machete, and then Tommy runs Jason's whole head through with a machete. Oh no, he's not setting up from that one.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Actually, he does start to twitch his fingers, but then Tommy finishes the job with about 50 more hacks with the machete. In the hospital, the doctor says Tommy's going to be just fine. He'll outgrow it all. Tommy gives us a look that says he isn't going to be fine.
Poor kid.
Okay, now in the first movie, or the second movie, the girl dressed up like Mrs. Voorhees, Jason's mother, and he was confused.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw somebody who looked like your mother standing there yelling at you, I could see that being okay because he's not real smart.
Yeah, he's mentally feeble.
Yeah, but if you see what looks like you when you were 12 talking to you, is that going to confuse you? Are you even going to recognize that kid as you?
I don't know. He did. It worked.
I think that one worked according to the plot. I think that was pretty lame.
Okay.
Well, it's got Crispin Glover, Corey Feldman, and a host of other familiar faces from the period, so the cast here is pretty good. It's got a lot of stunts and action sets, so it's clear they had a higher budget than before. Turned out this was still super profitable, so the final chapter may have been a poor choice for a title.
They realized this after.
There's like 7 or 8 more
There's
after
still
this.
money to be made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the group of teens look out of place in that house. The furnishings look like they belong to an old lady. It's like pink walls and little doilies and pictures that are in round frames. And yeah, it looks like Grandma's house.
It's a rental.
Well, the discovery of antique porn seemed to be accidental as well, so it's certainly not their house. All these people read in the newspaper about the colossal mass murder that happened just last night, and then they all decide to go play in the woods. Would the police not be out in full force?
Well, they got the guy and he's dead.
Well, first of all, if Rob knew he got out of the morgue, so did the cops. So
Well,
that's not
that's
something you're
true.
going to keep hidden too long.
Yeah.
And even if they weren't aware of that, they'd still be out, like, looking out for more bodies or other victims or calling people down, having a presence.
Yeah. Sure seems like it.
Did we see any cops in this movie?
No.
I don't remember any. Oh, well. Rob knew that Jason had escaped from the morgue, so the police would have to be aware as well. There are just too many teenagers here, most of whom are never named on screen.
But most of them get killed off.
Oh, yeah, they almost all do.
Yeah.
Nothing new is really added to the lore here. I suspect they really did think this was going to be the end, so they simply wrapped up all the loose ends from the previous films. It was good, but it wasn't the end.
It wasn't.
Now, as far as this podcast goes, now we've reached the end.
Nuh-uh.
If you want to know about Night of the Living Dead, or that other film, The Velvet Vampire, which I had never seen before,
I had never even heard of that one before.
go over to horrorbulletin.com and read the reviews there.
And it was surprisingly good.
It's not one you hear much about,
Yeah,
no.
but it should have more notoriety. I thought it was quite good. Strange and interesting.
I don't remember where we saw this now. Might have been Tubi.
I think it was Tubi. I'm not certain.
If in doubt, go to Tubi.
What is that site? Just Watch.
JustWatch.com is
Yeah,
a
if
really
you're-
useful site. You go in, you type in the name of a movie, and it'll tell you where you can watch it. It lists where you can pay to watch it and where you can watch it for free. Or if it's not on and streaming anywhere, it'll tell you that. It's very useful. JustWatch.com.
It's very friendly and there's no charge for it. You
Yeah,
don't have to sign up for an account or anything. It's just justwatch.com. And there's so many sites out there now. There's Tubi and all, Canopy. What was that? Yeah. And there's just a score of them out there
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You know,
Even just a plain old
So-
smart TV without paying for a Shutter or Prime or anything. There's plenty of good stations out there. I think of the free stuff, Tubi is probably the best.
there are a few commercials, but yeah, a lot of them's worth it anyway.
Oh, yeah, you got to deal with commercials, but no, it's worth it for free movies.
We've come full circle, kind of, watching commercial television again on some things.
Yeah, it's bathroom break. It's commercial time.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm Brian,
And I'm Kevin.
and we'll see you next week.
See ya.